Coming to your neighborhood, lower interest rates. In our Money Crunch reports, how to beat the credit card blues. And a crackdown on food makers. The label story. Coming up. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight from Washington. Good evening. President Bush and Vice President Quayle say there is no recession. But Americans hurt by what they believe is a recession are demanding action, and today they got some. One day after a Republican defeat in Pennsylvania, the Federal Reserve moved to pump more cash into the economy. CBS News correspondent Bruce Morton has our report.
The Federal Reserve Board lowered its discount rate again from 5 to 4.5%, the lowest in 18 years. Commercial banks followed, lowering their prime rate from 8 to 7.5. The aim is to perk up the economy, get investors to invest, consumers to spend. Expect interest rates for homes to come down further. But the Fed cut the rate last December, and again in February, and again in April, and again in September, and the recession continued. Will this fifth cut in 12 months work any better?
The U.S. economy remains in recession, and if anything, things look like they're about to get worse. So that this latest easing is a further demonstration of the Fed being behind the learning curve.
Political consultant Eddie Mai links the sluggish economy to the voters' gloomy mood.
There's just no good news out there, Bruce. There's just repetitive bad news, and I think that's tending to seep into the psyche of the American public today.
And there are real economic problems. Consumers worried about keeping their jobs don't want to spend. Banks who have shaky old loans on the books may not want to make any kind of new loans. Some banks have failed.
People are afraid for their own jobs, and when they're afraid, they're not going to go out and make a big-ticket discretionary purchase like a car or a house or household furnishing.
We're moving into the Christmas selling season, which promises to be dismal, and that will cause further declines in employment and hiring in general and in spending.
It's not that anyone thinks what the Fed did today will make things worse, just that they don't think it will make things very much better. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
So the banks will now get even cheaper money, but the banks themselves are showing absolutely no interest in cutting credit card rates. But there are ways you can save real money on your plastic. Business correspondent Ray Brady shows us tonight in The Money Crunch, Making It in America.
There are almost as many of them as there are of us. Nearly one credit card in circulation for every man, woman, and child in the United States. 225 million credit cards. But how much do we really know about those pieces of plastic we depend on so much? At a time when most interest rates are falling, including the rates that banks pay to savers, credit card interest rates remain sky high, and some users are irate.
As the man from Florida once said, come on down. And that's what they should do. Come down with all their interest rates and their fees.
It's very profitable for them to have 200 million Americans at 19% interest forever.
The banks say they need high rates. They lose $6 billion a year to credit card deadbeats and bankrupts. But there's a way you can avoid paying for the bank's losses. Simply switch your credit cards to financial institutions charging lower rates. They're out there. Just consider this threesome. The Cowlitz Bank of Longview, Washington will issue you a card with a fixed rate under 14%. Prime Bank of Elkhart, Indiana, fixed rate under 13%. Simmons First National Bank of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, 10% variable rate. Is it worth it to shop around? You bet it is. If you're the average American, you've got 4 credit cards. If you've got a balance of $1,000 on each of those cards and you cut the interest rate from 19 to 14%, you'll save a couple of $100 a year. And these are times when every penny counts. Then there's the biggest user gripe of all.
The annual fee really bothers me. That's really the thing that bothers me.
How do you handle that one?
Call up the credit card company and say, I don't want to pay an annual fee, and see if they take the fee off. Chances are they will.
Why should the bank waive your annual fee? You're paying a charge of maybe $15 to $50. But to replace you as a customer will cost the bank $100. So even the dullest banker knows that losing you as a customer is a losing proposition for the bank. So get in there and bargain, bargain, bargain. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
Finally, responding to consumer outrage, federal officials came out today with the most far-reaching overhaul of food label requirements ever. These changes are supposed to ensure that what you see on the label is what you get inside without hype or misleading health claims. Wyatt Andrews has a report.
It is the first sweeping attempt to define exactly how low is low calorie, how light is light, and when does the word reduced really mean it.
What you think that you're getting is not necessarily what you're getting.
High fiber, low fat. The new rules will fundamentally change the health claims that manufacturers can make on 750,000 kinds of packaged foods.
Consumers are hungry for a food label they can trust and understand. Real words with real meaning.
For example, light ice cream, forget it. High-fat oils claiming no cholesterol, no more. Consumer advocate Bruce Silverglade gave us examples of how labels will change.
This product says extra bran added for higher fiber. But what is higher fiber? Higher than what? The FDA will define high fiber in the future. The low cholesterol claim is going to disappear. It's going to fly right off the label. We're not going to see that anymore because this product is not also low in fat.
Most food labels will have to read like encyclopedias, listing 16 separate mandatory pieces of information, including, for example, not just calories, but calories derived from fat. The label will also list 3 types of carbohydrates, 4 key vitamins and minerals, and sodium, protein, and fiber. Perhaps most controversial, one new FDA rule would deny these high-fiber cereals the right to claim that they help reduce the risk of cancer or heart disease. Because medical evidence on this point is conflicting, the industry today promised a fight.
We think that the regulation may be too strict, too narrow, and will deny consumers information that they want.
But consumer groups contend the rules have huge loopholes in what some said was a cave-in to industry pressure. Labeling on fresh meat and poultry, America's greatest sources of fat and cholesterol, will be voluntary, not mandatory. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
And straight ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News from Washington, a big win for angry voters and a message for President Bush. And later, CBS News cameras inside Beirut show the old and the new.
Shoot some slices, salad shooter.
Point and shoot right into dessert or fruit salad.
Shoot some shreds, salad shooter.
For chocolatey, nutty dessert.
Salad shooter.
For chocolatey, nutty dessert toppings.
Shoot it fast, shoot it neat, shoot it pretty. Salad shooter.
Presto Salad Shooter Slicer Shredder. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, small enough to store anywhere. Great salads and much, much more.
Salad shooter.
Original, cordless, rechargeable, and now professional salad shooter.
What do you smell?
I can't smell anything. My nose is clogged. Yeah.
For fast relief, try Dristan 12-hour nasal spray. Now smell.
It's an orange. Dristan nasal spray just works incredibly fast.
Dristan, the face of relief today.
With the highest resale value in its class and proven Honda reliability, the Accord is a safe place to put your money.
Day after the elections, and although he's in Rome tonight, President Bush got the wake-up call from Pennsylvania, the biggest U.S. Senate victory for a Democrat in Pennsylvania's history. Harris Wofford blew away President Bush's friend and former Attorney General Dick Thornburgh by blasting Mr. Bush's economic policies, especially his opposition to national health insurance. Richard Threlkeld begins our election coverage.
The message from the voters of Pennsylvania today was clear enough in a phrase, down with the establishment.
Pennsylvanians are fed up with some of the things that have gone on, and we're ready to take a new direction.
Your first Democratic senator in 23 years reporting for duty.
So the anti-establishment candidate for the U.S. Senate, Democrat Harris Wofford, won an unexpectedly lopsided victory capitalizing on voter discontent.
They're angry and they're fed up and they want change and they want action to get our economy off dead center and get us moving out of this recession.
The loser, Dick Thornburgh, former Attorney General and conservative mainstay of the Bush administration, was a pillar of the Washington establishment, while Wofford cast himself as an outsider, pitching his campaign at the hard-pressed middle class, national health insurance, more unemployment benefits. The architect of all that, Wofford campaign strategist James Carville, thinks he's found a winning strategy for Democrats nationwide.
To reassert ourselves as the party of economic populism, as the party of the middle class.
In Washington today, Democratic leaders were ecstatic.
Voters across the United States sent George Bush another message. Put your passport in your pocket and start working on ending this recession.
But being a Democrat didn't help the incumbent governor of Mississippi, Ray Mabus. He lost to another outsider, businessman Kirk Fordyce, the first Republican ever elected governor here. Fordyce pitched his campaign at white voters, speaking out against racial quotas and welfare.
We need a change. That's what people have told me, and they weren't just joshing, they really meant it.
Today was not the best of days for President Bush. The Republican he got in Mississippi rode to victory on a tide of racial resentment. The Republican he wanted in Pennsylvania lost to a liberal. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, New York.
President Bush set foot back in Europe just a week after leaving it, perhaps his last foreign venture for some time. The White House last night abruptly postponed an upcoming Asia trip after growing evidence that voters are buying the Democrats' charge. George Bush loves solving problems in any country but his own.
It's fine for him to go overseas if he's taking care of problems here, but he's not. And that's why people are angry about it.
Not true, repeated Mr. Bush this morning, insisting that the polls are not why he's decided to spend more time at home. No, it was Congress's failure to take up his economic proposals and its delayed recess.
At the end of a congressional session, it is important to be there. All kinds of crazy things can happen with this crowd that controls the Senate and the House, and I'd like to be there to protect the American taxpayer.
The worried White House is now determined to paint Mr. Bush as dealing firmly with the economy, although so far it's as divided as the Democrats on just what to do.
Well, I think I already have a good growth package, but I'm prepared to work with Congress to come up with something new.
The president also talked in the toughest terms yet about the Republican embarrassment in Louisiana. Gubernatorial candidate David Duke, ex-Nazi, former Klansman.
I believe that David Duke is an insincere charlatan. I believe he's attempting to hoodwink the voters of Louisiana, and I believe that he should be rejected for what he is and what he stands for.
But it will be NATO, not David Duke of the recession, that tops the president's agenda here. This meeting is seen as crucial, the first since the fall of the Soviet Empire. But given the situation at home, it'll take some real acrobatics to turn this into a political plus. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Rome.
Other key election results in Washington state. Voters rejected a measure to limit the number of terms state and federal officials may serve. They also defeated a measure that would have allowed doctor-assisted suicide for the terminally ill. And here in Washington, D.C., voters approved a measure to make gun dealers and gun makers liable for damages when weapons are used to commit crimes. Coming up next, the teenager at the center of a school prayer case argued before the Supreme Court today.
Lucy, are you okay? I think I got whiplash. And a concussion.
Every now and then, life hits you with some very sour notes, and doctor bills can really add up. At MetLife, we do all we can to pay your claim promptly.
Get Met. It pays.
Hello? Jill? Oh, how about dinner at our house? What's wrong? Headache. I can imagine. Oh, I've got what you need. Motrin IB. Works great on headaches. My doctor said it's the same medicine as in prescription Motrin, but in non-prescription strength. One Motrin IB works as well as 2 regular Tylenol. Here.
Oh, no!
Don't look. Just keep this. Sounds like they'll need it too.
Motrin IB, recommended by thousands of doctors.
And your neighbor.
You've been up in the air for hours. Now you've got to make up the time. Aren't you glad Hertz has a faster, easier way to rent a car? #1 Club Gold. No paperwork, no stopping at counters, nothing to slow you down. You go straight to our Gold parking area, where your car is waiting, ready to go. It's our fastest way to rent a car.
I'm gonna make it.
Call Hertz today for low daily rates on Lincolns with free unlimited mileage.
Hertz, we're America's wheels.
Massacre in a Texas town. A madman out of control or a deliberate plan? 48 Hours reveals what the police found out tonight.
President Bush has rolled to victory in another showdown with Congress. At issue this time, the Bush administration policy that forbids giving abortion advice at family planning clinics receiving federal money. The House voted overwhelmingly today to lift that ban, but not by the two-thirds majority that would be needed to override Mr. Bush's promised veto. The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments today in a case that could redraw the line separating church and state in American classrooms. CBS News law correspondent Rita Braver has our report on that.
The Wisemans of Providence, Rhode Island ended up at the U.S. Supreme Court today, all because they didn't want daughter Deborah's middle school graduation to include a prayer. This Jewish family had been highly offended earlier at their older daughter's commencement when a minister asked everyone to thank Jesus Christ.
Certainly, a reaction that has stuck with me is humiliation, that I was totally powerless to prevent myself and my family from being subjected to a ritual of a religion that we're not part of.
I look at it more as an inspirational message than a prayer.
The school refused to ban the prayer, but to placate the Wisemans invited a rabbi to speak.
We give thanks to you, O Lord, for keeping us alive.
Insisting any religious observance was offensive, the Wisemans sued.
I don't think anything should be put upon you saying that this is how it is. I mean, in a public atmosphere like that.
But the school board claimed graduation prayers are not meant to indoctrinate young people.
It's being done under the same context. Why do we use the word God when we pledge allegiance to the flag?
And now Providence, backed by the Bush administration, wants the Supreme Court to use this case to set a whole new standard for state-sponsored religion, allowing any practice as long as no one is coerced into conforming with it. A skeptical Sandra Day O'Connor suggested that would mean a state could declare an official religion, like saying a bolo tie is the official state necktie, as long as wearing one is voluntary. Justice Antonin Scalia countered that a high school graduation is no different than ceremonies like presidential inaugurations where prayers are traditional. Clarence Thomas stayed silent through his first high-profile court argument. And though the decision in this case is not expected to allow a return to prayer in public school classrooms, it could result in a substantial lowering of the wall between church and state. Rita Braver, CBS News at the Supreme Court.
Stay with us now for more CBS News, the Robert Maxwell story, and military muscle building in defense of a new Europe.
Norelco doesn't just shave you close, but incredibly close, or merely shave you in comfort, but in exceptional comfort. Because the Norelco razor's patented lift and cut system lifts the hair, so when it's cut, it can actually drop below skin level without the blades even touching your face. And once you've shaved that incredibly close with exceptional comfort, you know you'll always be comfortable shaving with a Norelco. Norelco, we make close comfortable.
Right now, America's most popular brand of appliances is on sale at Sears Brand Central.
What are you doing?
Where this 21 cubic foot Kenmore top mount and 22 cubic foot Kenmore side by side are at their lowest prices ever.
I love performing, though it's a lot more fun with an audience. I love sweet things too, like Sunsweet pitted prunes. They're so tasty and fat-free. It's love, all right. It's Sunsweet.
The new supercharged Pontiac SSEI. Comfort without compromise. Performance without penalty. Excitement without apology. Pontiac. SSEI.
They say when you have a cold, eat chicken soup, but did you know that eating certain foods may prevent disease? Meals That Heal, all this week on CBS This Morning. It's breakfast for your head.
A Spanish coroner says he believes publisher Robert Maxwell died of natural causes, probably a heart attack. An autopsy today found no evidence of foul play, no evidence of intelligence agency involvement. The medical examiner believes Maxwell was dead or dying when he probably fell off his yacht yesterday in waters off the Spanish Canary Islands. The president of Croatia called on the United States and its allies today to intervene in Yugoslavia's vicious and spreading civil war. This came as President Bush and other NATO leaders were gathering in Rome for their summit. Now that the Cold War is over, the question is how to keep the peace in Europe. And we have a report on that tonight from our chief European correspondent, Tom Fenton.
Cities under siege. Soldiers in house-to-house combat. The war in Yugoslavia is a conflict that no one seems to be able to stop. NATO, the organization founded to prevent war in Europe, has done nothing.
Because it hasn't been equipped or trained to intrude in what was traditionally called an internal problem.
The problem is this: NATO, which the United States leads and supports, has the military muscle but no longer has a role. The European community, which is taking on roles like trying to stop the fighting in Yugoslavia, doesn't have the military muscle. To give Europe muscle, France and Germany are calling for a new European army without the Americans. The nucleus is already here, in a fledgling French-German brigade. But the practical problems are enormous. The soldiers of the brigade speak either French or German, but rarely both. Fortunately, the unit has not yet been tested in battle. Their equipment is not standardized. A Frenchman in a pinch couldn't borrow bullets from the German next to him. They wouldn't fit. The Germans don't like the French weapons. With my own weapon, this private complains, I would have hit the target every time. It would take years to create a new European army from this small beginning, but faced with the growing instability in Eastern Europe, there may be no choice. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Mannheim, Germany.
I wasn't expecting to be in the hospital for 2 weeks. But suddenly there I was, having a cesarean. David was wonderful. And when it was all over, I had this perfect little person. And a lot of pain. Later I was kind of surprised when the doctor gave me Tylenol, with all the other choices they have, but the Tylenol made me feel better, so I could put my mind on more important things.
Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
High fiber cereal, no taste.
Great tasting cereal, no fiber.
Why have one without the other? Fruit and fiber, fruit and fiber.
Delicious raisins, nuts, dates, crunchy oat clusters, and crispy high-fiber bran flakes.
It's like no other. Fruit and fiber.
Great taste. And high fiber.
Why have one without the other?
Post Fruit and Fiber cereal. Great taste and high fiber.
Today, Tektret Shoe Corporation announced a major retail expansion in 25 U.S. cities.
When I see a company that looks like a good investment, I check it out myself.
We make it easier to follow your own lead.
At Charles Schwab, I can get quotes, financial news, and when I make a trade, commission savings.
Always there to give you just the help you need.
Help yourself at Schwab today.
A driver's side airbag is now standard on every new Accord, Civic, and Prelude. But remember, it's most effective when you wear your seatbelt.
We bake pearls made of denture material in this blueberry pie to prove how powerfully Efferdent, America's leading denture cleanser, removes this tough stain, even in between. Efferdent, stronger than stains.
Beirut. For 15 years, the name was a synonym for murder and civil war. And since the Iranian and Syrian-linked kidnapping wave of the 1980s, Beirut has been off limits for Americans. Now, at least for the time being, some of the violence and kidnappings has been slowed. And while the U.S. government still officially bars travel to Lebanon, 60 Minutes correspondent Steve Croft and his crew were able to get into Beirut and out again alive with this report.
From a distance high above the Mediterranean, it could still pass for the Monte Carlo of the Middle East. You have to go to street level to see the devastation. But for months now, the only flash to be seen is the welder's torch. The only sounds, traffic, and construction. Beirut is digging itself out like an anthill that's been stepped on.
No shooting, no bombing, no kidnapping. You can go freely anytime you want.
This was the green line, the dividing line between East Beirut and West Beirut. Christians on one side, Muslims on the other, the front line of the civil war. If I'd come down here a year ago, I would have been killed instantly. But the roadblocks and the snipers are gone, and for the first time in 15 years, Beirut is truly one city.
The reason is simple. For the first time in 15 years, there is someone in charge. Syrian President Hafez al-Assad. His picture and his soldiers are everywhere, invited in by the Lebanese to disarm them and keep themselves from killing each other, and to stop the kidnappings. So far, it's worked.
What about Americans? How safe is it here for Westerners? How safe is it for Americans?
So far, you see, you are Americans and you are here. Do you see any danger against you?
We felt the danger in the southern suburbs, the radical Shiite stronghold loyal to Iran, where Terry Anderson, Terry Waite, and 5 other Westerners are still held hostage. We stayed clear. Everywhere else we saw lots of stares and not many smiles. It's still illegal under U.S. law for us to be here, but the Lebanese are anxious for Westerners to return. Across town, they're holding fashion shows, attended by some of the 300,000 Lebanese expatriates who have come back. Most left their money in Europe, afraid to trust tomorrow. For most Lebanese, though, life is a lot more difficult. Tens of thousands are living in bombed-out buildings. There are few jobs, the water is undrinkable, electricity sporadic. But peace is better than war.
Certainly, Lebanon is certainly picking up again. We feel it everywhere in the country.
The Lebanese are enjoying it while it lasts. At the racetrack, former enemies sit side by side, guns at home in the closet, venting their emotion on horses instead of each other. But after 15 years of war, they know better than anyone else that lasting peace is still a long shot. Steve Croft, CBS News, Beirut.
Beirut, a bad neighborhood getting at least a little better. Part of our world tonight. Coming up later tonight on this CBS station, 48 Hours, the massacre in Killeen, Texas. New and revealing information from the police as they try to unravel the mystery of a killer's mind. That's 48 Hours, Massacre. Tonight at 10 in the East and West, 9 most places in between. Dan Rather reporting from Washington. I'll see you again soon on 48 Hours.
There's something fishy with these cans of tuna. Check this out. Less tuna, same price. Incredible shrinking products. Tomorrow's Money Crunch report on the CBS Evening News. This is CBS. Attention all